Yes, pregnant females hibernate. They go inland to a den where they're going to have their cubs, and during that time they're hibernating.
There can be a symbiotic relationship between polar bears and the Arctic fox. Certainly certain foxes are interested in trailing after bears and looking for the opportunity to grab scraps. It's not the only place they make their living, but some animals do choose to pursue that opportunity.
Polar bears do not have fiber optic fur. This is a myth that started a long time ago. People thought that they might, but when a scientist actually tried to pass light down the fur of a polar bear, nothing happened. No light transferred down to the skin. Polar bears do have black skin. We don't know why. They just do, but they don't have fiber optic fur.
Polar bears can mate successfully with grizzly bears. This has been shown in captivity in Europe back in the 50s and 60s, and there's been one incident here in Canada where a hunter accidentally took a hybrid bear.
Polar bears are being seen to have smaller body masses than they had in the past. This is significant in that it indicates a decrease in their condition in some populations, which will directly impact the total numbers of bears we see in terms of survival of cubs and the health of the population.
Polar bears will sometimes eat fish. It's a rare occurrence. It happens in a few places. It's not a major part of their diet. They'll sometimes dive and catch fish. It's been observed on the coast of Labrador several hundred years ago. All those polar bears are dead that used to do that. They were all hunted out. But pretty much it's a rarity. It's seen in a few places, but it's not how they make their living. It's seals or nothing for them.
In some populations, polar bears do come on land in summer. Those are the populations in Hudson Bay and Davis Strait in Canada.
Polar bears do have special adaptations for moving across slick surfaces like the sea ice. Their sharp, long claws, long guard hairs on their paws, and the rough surface of their pads.
The only animals known to prey on adult polar bears are human beings. There's no reason to believe that if orcas move north with climate change, they wouldn't have an opportunity to take a polar bear. But we do see some cannibalism. Occasionally adult males will take cubs and even females that are denned up.
Well, you know, polar bears can smell really well. They can smell things long ways away. I think they could probably smell a stinking whale carcass 20 miles away, but there's no indication that they can smell a seal at that distance. And you have to think, why would they want to? They would be smelling hundreds of seals, and what they really want to do is just find the ones they want to eat.
It's not possible for polar bears to survive on land. They simply can't find enough nutrition from those sources that are available in a terrestrial environment. Besides, there's already an animal filling that niche. It's the barren ground grizzly bear.
Liver of polar bear is toxic due to high vitamin A levels.
Polar bears are not more dangerous to humans than other bears. If you look at bear-human fatalities, brown and black bears kill more people every year than polar bears ever have.
Oh, polar bears can walk on ice that I wouldn't even consider walking on. The reason is they're not scared about falling in. If they do, they can just get their way back out, so it's not a problem for them.
I think people assume that the polar bear has learned to cover its black nose so that it blends better into the background, and certainly a bear might hunker down in a position where its nose is covered, but again, there's no reason to believe that they actually actively are aware that their nose could give them away.
While some people would like to believe this, we really have no idea. There's simply no reasonable data from those early years to compare to the really good population data we have today.
They can get short-term energy gains from goose eggs, but it's a very short period of time, and they only get a very small part of their annual energy budget that way.
Polar bears don't get snowblind. It's amazing. We're not really sure how they do it. We think they have pigments in their eyes that act like built-in sunglasses that keep them from going snowblind. You or I would be blind after a day out on the ice and snow, but doesn't seem to bother them at all.
There's a lot of desire to believe that there is a way to create artificial habitat for polar bears, but we know that the ecology around the sea ice is so complex that any kind of artificial platform we were to create would simply be insufficient. It's kind of like the idea of mowing down old growth forest, putting back up artificial trees, and hoping that all the wildlife in that ecosystem would return.
Polar bears definitely use thick multi-year sea ice. As the seasonal sea ice retreats, most of the world's polar bears pull back onto this thicker ice, and they use it during the summer period for resting and for some hunting.
Polar bears can't survive on terrestrial foods because they can't get enough energy there for their annual energy budget. They have to feed on seals on the ice.
Polar bears aren't the only white bears. We've actually got white black bears on the coast of British Columbia. Some people call them spirit bears. They're better known as Kermode bears. These bears have a white pigment. They kind of look like polar bears, but they live a very different life. We've also got really close to white when we look at some of the grizzly bears. They're really more silver than white, but you can certainly see where polar bears came from when you look at these grizzly bears.
On average, a female polar bear will have 2.3 cubs, somewhere between 2 and 3. Usually 2 is most common.
Polar bears can't simply evolve backwards into grizzly bears. The rate of change that's happening right now just simply won't allow for that. And we already have grizzly bears in those ecological niches around the Arctic.